So today I'm going to show you how to mark and cut with a handsaw a softwood sleeper. I tend to try and choose a new sharp saw when I'm cutting something thick like this, or maybe if I'm cutting a 100 by 100mm fence post, so I'm doing several of them, it's easy to take a new saw and cut it much more quickly and easily. The saw is designed in a clever way so it can either cut a 90° or a 45° angle, depending on which way you set the saw up against the timber. So that's a very useful guide to have on your saw. So just set your saw up against the timber using the 90° guide and mark your first line. And just keep turning your timber over and keep on marking the lines. I'd go all the way around the four sides. Probably don't need all that, but at least it'll keep you on track when you're learning how to saw. Carry the line over by just putting a little mark on this side here, just a little side mark, just to show you where the other line is, so you can line them up more easily. So just follow the line around from your other side and mark a little line just here on the side, and at least you can follow it around with the saw. Now just whittle your, that's a technical term, saw around a little bit until it's absolutely until this bit here is absolutely flat up against the edge of the timber, and that'll give you a 90°. And you go whittle. See that smack up against there, in line with your mark. And whoosh. That's it. You can either use a pencil or the Sharpies are quite good, particularly on this wood where you get some darker patches, then hopefully it's thick enough for you to see when you're cutting. Now use the saw edge to draw all the way around the whole of the 20 by 10cm sleeper. Always a good idea to put your gloves on, your eye protection, heavy boots when you're trimming something like this. As I'm cutting this big heavy timber on my own, and I don't want to damage the work surface either, I'm just put some little offcuts of sleeper underneath there. One at either end of the work table, put that in there, and one in the middle there, just directly underneath the joint I'm going to cut to. And then I can cut right through from the top and down into that bit of scrap timber without damaging my nice plywood worktop or whatever surface. And then also when I cut through from the timber into the decking, a little bit of decking there at the bottom, it'll mean that I'll get a clean cut without it breaking away and stripping off some shreds of timber which can look a bit unsightly potentially. If you're doing this with two of you, then potentially you've got somebody to hold the other end and have it dangling over just your workhorse or something like that. But in this instance I'm on my own, so it's easier to do it this way, and as I say, you get a clean cut and it should be fine. In the timber, I don't know whether you'll see it on the video or not, but there's some shakes in the timber which weren't there when I bought them because they were wet when I bought them, but there's some little shakes in there, and there's also some along the top which goes right the way along there. That's a natural phenomenon, so don't be too worried about that. The other two beams that I've got haven't got any shakes on them at all, but doesn't worry me. So we're just going to try and cut this now. You just watch what I'm doing. It's just a matter of lining the saw up against your thumb. But as I say, if you've got a gloved hand, it does protect your thumb from getting chopped off. hardest part, getting it started. Once it's started, the key to it is to keep the saw upright, saw on as level a surface as you can, because even if you saw on a slight gradient, it's surprising how it can throw off the cut. So hence the reason really for having all the different all the different marks on there with the Sharpie pen, because it does keep you hopefully on track. And if you keep the saw, so if you've got your nose right at the end of the saw here when you're sawing, you shouldn't really be able to see the silver either side of the saw, just the silver at the top, and then hopefully if it's level and you're just looking at the silver at the top of the saw, then you should get a straight cut. So that's now following the line perfectly, so when I come to make my sleeper bed up later on, that'll join up absolutely spot on, hopefully. So keep following the line, gently, there's no rush, it doesn't take long to do this with a sharp saw, already halfway through. When I'm cutting oak sleepers, I tend to use the chainsaw, but you have to be a very competent chainsaw user and be well protected if you're going to do that. And also I find with a handsaw I get a more accurate cut. I'll just check the other side of the saw or the other side of the sleeper, and as you see we're spot on, so that's good, I'm happy boy. Here I'll just show you these natural shakes in the timber which are here. I wouldn't worry too much about those, but if you haven't got any, that's a bonus. You can always put a bit of, drizzle a bit of clear Cuprinol into these just to protect the inner part of the wood a bit more if you'd like to do so. And keep going now. The main thing is to use the full length of the saw, whether it's a 20-inch saw or a 22-inch saw. Use the full length, then you'll be more efficient use of your arm muscles. As you see, it's very easy, very effortless. It took more energy to lift the sleeper onto my work table. There you go. And now we've got the exciting bit where we cut through into the little bit of decking below, and we should end up with a nice clean cut. That new noise indicates that the wood is through, and as you see, it's a nice clean flat cut there, which makes it easier to join the sleepers together for our raised beds. Just watch this, the sleeper's about to fall off the end of the table, so just be mindful of that, so just be careful. So what I do to make sure that these sleepers last longer, the outside is all tunnelized. This is why it's this slightly different colour to this, but to protect these ends, even if they're going to be covered in by another piece of sleeper, I always treat them with Cuprinol clear wood preserver. And ideally, if you can put some wood preserver, about 25-50 ml into one of those big saucers you put your plant pots onto, and just soak it in there, ideally for an hour or so, or maybe overnight. It's not going to do any harm, and then hopefully the Cuprinol will gradually soak in, then that'll make sure that these sleepers last a lot longer. Otherwise, without any protection on here, the water will find its way in and it will rot quite easily, irrespective of whether the rest of the sleeper has been treated with wood preserver or whatever, or been through the tunnelizing process. It's a big word for a Sunday afternoon. As you see, that's a lovely, perfectly good square cut there, and the saw goes in Perfect. Yeah. Great. Very happy. And that's a process you can use with big piece of timber, small piece of timber. The principles are basically all the same. Some people have these clever cut-off saws which will go all the way through the timber, no problem. Sadly, mine only goes about halfway through, and then the difficulty then is to line it back up again. But it takes a lot less to set up a handsaw than it does to set up a power saw and all the electricity or whatever. I hope you found this a little bit useful. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe, and then I can continue to help Acorns Childrens Hospice Worcester and Mind. And thank you to the 300,000 people who viewed my different videos. Thank you so much.